on how we can create an application with the tools what we discussed. Okay, so before going to talk about, I want to discuss with you the general architecture of Hyperion. Okay, what is the meaning of architecture? So it represents how we can access an application. It represents about how to connect to the application, what are the clients are available, what are the application services, so what kind of databases. Okay, so that is very, very important to understand before going to create this application in Hyperion. Okay, for that, I just would like to show you a few things. Okay, so just go to this. So I'm talking about Essbase first. Okay, so then we can see how it goes. So I can use this template for you. Okay, so do you see one is database tier, and the second one is application tier. The third one is client tier. Okay, so any tool like Essbase, Hyperion Planning, HFM, FDMW, any tool that we are discussing in our training, it has a three-tier architecture. We call it as three-tier architecture. The client tier represents the clients, how you can access the Hyperion application. Okay, what is the application that you use to connect to the Hyperion? We call it as client. So right now we have like Smart View client. Okay, it is an Excel add-in which we are going to install on our machine and connect to the Hyperion applications. Okay, whatever you created. The EPM workspace is an web interface where we have access to every Hyperion application. Okay, so how we can connect to the Hyperion applications, in our Hyperion technology is the client. Okay, the first one is SmartView client and the second one is EPM workspace. Okay, of course we have a couple of clients with respect to the tool. Okay, so I'll talk about it. And coming to the application layer or web application tier, so this we call it as where the Hyperion services are running. That mission we call it as application server. Okay, and coming to this database where the actual data is going to sit in the backend. that the backend database is either it might be Oracle database or SQL. Either Oracle or SQL. Okay, so I want to make you understand with clear information. So if you want to access your email on your mobile, how you do that? If you want to access your emails on your mobile, what you do?
Load the application and log in.
Sorry,
We load the application from the source.
First, we need to install the application. Then.
which application?
For any server we want to use it.
I'm not getting. So if you want to access your email, okay, on your mobile, how you can access it?
By installing application or Gmail.
Yeah.
Gmail app.
Right. So
From
any
Play Store.
Android, if you bought, Gmail comes automatically, right? So that app is called client. Okay. When you install that client, or if it comes automatically, you're going to log in with your credentials. Okay. So now using that app, you're trying to access the emails. That's fine. So in the backend, what is happening? You're trying to access your emails through Gmail app, but the application server where the services of Gmail is running in the Google Office. Okay, so they are going to run a service to make it up and running. So if that service is down, no one could not access the Gmail. Okay, and all our Google Drives and our storage, everything is going to store in the backend database from the Google Office itself. I hope you understand now what is the meaning of client. Okay, so client is an utility that you can access your application. Okay, so now I'm just trying to understand here to let you know one thing. Source data. From general perspective, I'm trying to make you understand. Let's say an example of DMart. Okay, so DMart counters are going to enter all the transactions into their system using OLTP system. Okay, what is an OLTP? OLTP talks about the transactions. Okay, online transaction processing system. So it stores the information what is happening on the daily basis. Okay, so they might have a chance of if they're not using any OLTP system, they can use in an Excel. Okay, or we call it as Flatwell. So that is also a kind of source for us. Yeah. So how the data is coming actually? So the actual transaction is going to store in the OLT. Okay. Or if they might be use any ERP source data or PeopleSoft. So these are the technologies where we can use to store our daily transactions. EBS, like this. Now, this data, whatever the transactions were happening, okay, which are actually happening, right? They want to do the consolidation. They want to know how many transactions were happened. What is my profit? What is my balance sheet? What is my income statement or cash flow? If I want to know those information, I have to load this into the application where I can get all the related information about consolidation, balance sheet, income statement, all the stuff. So I have to pull this information into the Hyperion where I have some knowledge that Hyperion can do this. Yeah. So now what is the tool that I am going to use in the Hyperion application to pull the source data is data management, or we call it as FDME. Okay, what is the tool? Data management or FDME. Or we can use ODI, Oracle Data Integrator, or DRM, Data Relationship Management. Okay, what did it does? ETL or ELT tools. These are all that. So we are pulling the data from source data and pushing into the Hyperion applications. Either it is Essbase, either it is Hyperion Planning, either it is HFM, like this, the major tools. So this is the Hyperion applications. Okay. So once we loaded the respective data, so in Essbase and Planning, what type of data we load? What it does, Essbase and Planning?
Budgeting info.
Right. So budgeting forecasting data will be loaded into the Essbase and Planning. And in HFM, the actual data will load into this. How we load in the real time? We load using the FDMW or either ODI or DRM. So mostly we use data management or FDMW to load the data from the source. Please remember that. Okay. So once this is done, we are going to create the reports. Okay, like balance sheet, income statement, cash flow. So these reports we are going to create using the financial reporting web studio from this data. So I have the metadata already in this application, and I'm trying to load the actual data into this application. And finally, we are going to create the reports using this. Okay, this is what is happening in our Hyperion. Okay, the same way, even if it is PBCS or EPBCS or FCCS, the data is going to come from this data management or FDMW. The same data is going to, we are going to create using the Financial Web Reporting Studio for this application. Okay, so this is the architecture, how the data is going to flow. Okay, so the general architecture, how the data is coming, how we can, push into this Hyperion application, what are the tools, and how we can create the reports. Clear on this? Any questions? Any questions, guys? All good? Okay.
Yes.
So now I'm going to talk about one more slide. We need to have that understanding. File new. Okay. So what is the 3-tier architecture? I'm going to give you an example practically. So I showed you already our server. So if I want to access Essbase application, okay. So I'm talking about if I want to access Essbase application, how I can do that. I have an option of Essbase Administration Services Console. This is the client that I should use to access my Essbase application. Okay. If I want to access planning application, I can use Workspace as a client to access my planning application. In a similar way, if I want to access the HFM application, I have a same Workspace to access my HFM application as a client. Okay. And what about in SmartView? SmartView is a client that I can access any one of the applications, all Hyperion applications I can access through SmartView. Clear on this? In a similar way, is this HFR reports also. If you want to access the HFR reports which we created, you can use the Workspace. This Workspace is a client, but you don't need to install it on your machine. Okay. SmartView that you have to install it on your machine, the business users. So the users who are using or trying to access the application, they should have EAS console, Workspace, and SmartView. These are the clients that we are trying to access the applications. Okay. So on my mission, this is my mission, and I want to access through EAS client. Okay. So this EAS console client I'm using for the Essbase application creation or Essbase application access. So this EAS console is available in web or is available through client also. In a two ways I can, access my application. So what is that? I install it. Okay. Go to the web. First thing I want to show you, this is my server. This is my server. And if you see this Start Administration Services console, this is the client that I installed on this server. Okay. The same client I can install on my Windows 10 machine also to access the server. Okay. Right. So just click on it. And you'll getting one pop-up window like this. This is the client. Okay. It is talking about what is the server, what is the port of the server, EA administration server, and give the login details. This is the client. So the same thing that I can access through this one. This is the URL that I can access that client using the web. See, it will be coming like this. If you click on launch, you're going to get the same window. So to access your Essbase application, Essbase Administration Services console is the client that you should install on your machine. How you're going to install that? I'm going to provide that. Okay. If you go to the uninstall a program, you can see Hyperion Essbase Administration Services console is installed on my machine. If you don't want to install on your machine, you can use this URL to access it. Okay, not this server name. I'm going to provide that IP. Okay, where you can have access. So now tell me, this is the client to access my Essbase server. Just say it okay. Don't use SSL because we didn't install any SSL. Say it okay. Expand the Essbase server. This is the SBase cluster 1, this server name. And if you expand this administration server, you can see what is the server name, LIT EPM and 10080. If you go to the file explorer, I already shown you like what is my server name. You see? So the same thing we can see it, administration server is connected. So the reason it got connected is in the application layer in the sense the first client layer I discussed. Now second one is application layer. Application layer is nothing but the services which are running, the services window. So this IP administration service is running in the backend. That is the reason I am able to connect to this. If this service is down, for example, I'm going to stop. Okay. So Google also stopped their Gmail service. What is happening there? Okay. Let me disconnect. Just say try to access again. Connect to the same logins. Say it, okay. What it is saying? Could not connect to administration server 10080. The reason is in the application layer, the service is down. You got it? What I'm saying? Do you have any questions? As I discussed, this is the client here. This is the application here where services are. Clear? If your service is down, you could not access that application through client. Okay. That application layer is nothing but where your services are running. And now coming to the database. Whatever the database that they are going to use it depends. So DB team would be there and they install and configure the Oracle DB with respect to the each application schema. We create the schema for each application and we store that SBase data in a separate SBase schema, planning data in a separate planning schema like this. Okay. So this is the database tier. Okay. So in our server, I install the database. Okay. Called Oracle database. This is the Oracle database. I'm trying to use it through SQL developer. So our actual data is going to sit in the backend called database. Okay, trying to connect to it. Just expand. Okay, I got. It is trying to connect to this database. It got connected, and if you see, these are the tables. Okay. Just type the statement, run this. See, these are the DB users which we have by default, but I created the DB users called, you see, EPM, RC, EPM, HSS, ESS. This is the schema. ESS is the SB schema. This for planning, this for HFM, this for FDM, data management. So every application has its own schema. Okay. So this is called DB tier, where I'm using SQL Developer as a client to access my schema. So for the database also, it has the architecture. So for everything, we have a client. Okay. Any questions, guys? Just very, very new to you. I can understand, but still, just watch this today's session couple of times. Tomorrow, I'm going to ask the questions on this. Okay.
Sir, we are accessing ES console through two ways. One from window, typing like service administration. One is from URL. ES console we can access from two ways, Windows and
Yes.
URL.
Yeah.
For URL, we no need to install
Client.
application. Right.
Exactly.
Okay, fine.
Right.
Only for Windows need. Fine, thanks.
In a similar way, let me discuss about the workspace. That workspace is, and just click on this. This is the workspace. I'm trying to access this using my actual server name, but basically you could not access with this server name because I'm on that system. That is the reason it is working. But for you, you have to use the IP which I'm going to provide it to you. Okay. So what is that IP? That static IP. It got stuck. Give me a second. Okay, that IP I mentioned, this is the static IP, and you can access this. Okay, so try to access this URL. This is the workspace URL where you are going to use to access HFM and Hyperion planning applications. Of course, we can access other applications, but in our training, we are going to talk about this. So this is the workspace homepage where you have access to navigate applications. Consolidation is nothing but HFM application. Planning is nothing but planning applications. Okay, so this is what you need to understand. How to build an application, I'm going to show it to you. So workspace is the client where you can access the application. And EAS console is the client, and you can install this client also. But for workspace, you don't have a client. You have to use this in the web itself. Okay, you don't have to install this client because it is not available. Okay, and what is left? Smart View. Okay, so Smart View is a client that you can access. So you can install from the workspace itself. If you go to install and you're going to download this. Okay, so once you download it, you can install that on your machine. So if you go to the control panel, I already installed on my server. Using Oracle SmartView 64-bit for Office. You have to install on your machine. So everybody has to install, EAS client, SmartView client today and start practicing. Okay. So this is what I would like to discuss with you before going to start the actual session. So now you understand how I can access my application through client, where the services are running in the backend in the application layer, and how the data store in the Hyperion Hyperion application, it is in the database, the backend, either it is Oracle DB or MS SQL. Okay, so let's put this in our slide. Good. And now coming to the creation of Essbase application. What is a navigation? Log into the administration services console as an admin. Okay. So you should have a few admin, access to login. So we have done already this step. Okay. And expand the Essbase server, then expand Essbase cluster. After that, expand the application. There you find the existing application. So here we are talking about Essbase application creation. So let me start this service. I didn't start the service. So right click on it. You can manually start and stop. So we're going to see that how we can do a script to automate how to stop and start also later, but try to understand how we can start and stop the services manually. Just right click on it, say start or stop. Okay. Let's wait for a couple of seconds because it is connecting to the database. Hey, I'm up. I'm going to start it soon.
So the services form, how you have opened that? I did.
You can go to the search box and type services.msc. On your laptop machine, just go and type this services.msc and search for Oracle. So Oracle hyphen services, just type O and get to this. All my hyphen application services are running. Okay, let me say it okay here. Yes, it got connected. So you can check to which EAS server you got connected. You can see here. Okay, it got connected and say Essbase server. And you can see all the list of applications of Essbase here under Essbase Cluster 1. You see, these are the applications that are available right now. Okay, and if you want to access, you can access by expanding something like this. And you have outline, linked report object, rule file, partitions, and we call this as a cube. This is an application. This is the database. This we call it as cube also. Database is not something that we can say as cube. Okay, so in the general terms, we are going to talk about Essbase database. So the reason why we call it as Essbase database, it is not like Oracle or MS SQL. The Essbase related objects are going to store into this Essbase folder. That's why we call it as database. Otherwise, it is not like Oracle or MS SQL. So we just call it as cube or database. Okay, this is an application, this is the database. And similar way, this is an application, this is the database. Okay, and you see different colors here. So here you have like one color. Okay, and you have here like a blank. And if you come down, you have one star mark here. What are all this we're going to talk about? Okay, so that application creation in Essbase that we are going to do using the EAS console, we already connected. So how many ways we have to create an application in Essbase? Just go to the file and say new. And it's going to show one window called block storage application and aggregate storage application. So you need to understand in Essbase or planning, we have two types of applications. One is BSO, block storage application, and ASO, aggregate storage option. O is nothing but option. Here we can use it as an application. Okay, so the major part of data from any customer, they're going to store into the BSO application. So they do so many calculations, they store so many data. So that is the reason BSO will accept that bulk data from the customer side. So that's the reason we use it BSO. So I'm going to talk about the difference between BSO and ASO soon, but try to understand how many applications any customer has on the Essbase. The majority of applications are BSO. And ASO is simply for the reporting purpose. They are not going to do much with this ASO. They use it for the reporting purpose. Okay. Now say it okay. select that BSO, say it okay. And it's asking like, do you want to create under this server SBase cluster 1? Okay. So I'm going to use it, LITESS. This is my application name. And you see here Unicode mode. What is this Unicode mode talks about? If your SBase application name, if you want to have more than 8 characters, okay? So for example, I'm going to take here SBase ESS APP. So there are 9 alphabets, okay? And I'm saying, okay. So what it is saying, failed to create the application, check the message panel. So the reason it is showing, in general, if you want to create any application in SBase, it should be below 8 characters. Okay, below 8 characters. If you want to have more than 8 characters, you have to select Unicode mode. It allows you to have the application name from 8 to 32. So, 32 characters that you can mention in the application name if you want, if you enable this Unicode mode. Clear? Any questions? Okay, so say it okay here. My application is getting ready on the SBase side. So now you have to ask me, sir, this application got created. May I know like how I can access physically? Where this application will be available as a folder or physically to see what objects got created, what kind of things got created. So may I know who developed the SBase? Who developed this SBase?
Arbor software.
Arbor?
Software.
Right. So this path where your SBase application got created just now, LITESS, on April 25th, 9:46. You see here the time. The applications where this store, the applications is nothing but Arbor path. We call it as Arbor path. Okay, till APP. This is called Arbor path. And what are the objects got created? We have instance file, we have APP file and APP file. Application file is there and one backup file is there and instance file is there. So if something got corrupted on the application side and no user is trying to access, no user could not access. So in that case, you can use this backup file, APB file, and rename it to APP, and you can use your application. Okay, this is for your backup purpose only. And you see there is only one folder right now when you create an application. Okay, so all your SBase application stores in Arbor path, please remember. And now right click on this application. And if you see if you place the cursor on that application, you can see that it is block storage application is running. Now right click on this and you have an option called create database. Okay, I showed you one way called file new. Okay, I can create the database again from the same path. Otherwise, right click on the application, say create application using block or aggregate. Both are same. So you have an option to create an application, but if you want to create the database, you have to right click on the application directly like this. And what is the purpose of this SBase generally we use for the customer? For the budgeting and forecasting.
Budgeting and forecasting.
Right. And if you want to, if your business is available in only one country, then you can use normal. If you have your business in multiple countries, you have to do some currency translation. That is the reason you can select the currency. Okay, so I'm going with normal now. And if you see allow duplicate member names. So in your organization information, so we are talking about the locations information in entity, right? So if any entity is duplicated, and if you want to have that duplication for your requirement, then you can enable this allow duplicate member. Otherwise, you are pretty sure that I don't have any duplicate names in my organization information, then you can disable this. Okay. Say it okay. And my database got created, my cube got created. And if you go to the Arbor path, you have this budget cube. See how many files got created? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 files got created when you created database. What are the files? Database backup file, database file, ESM, OTL, and TCT. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to give you the work. I want each file purpose. I want each file purpose, what instance file does, APB file does, APP, and in the cube, what are all these 5 files does. Okay, it's a homework for you. All right. So this is how we create an Essbase application. Clear? How we create an Essbase application using ES console. We go and connect to this Essbase server. Right click on that applications or go to the file, say new. In the similar way, we right click on that application, go to the create database option. That's it. So if I want to access, or sorry, if I want to create an planning application. Okay. So let me go to this presentation to make you understand. So right click on the application, click on create application. Then you can find using BSO or ASO, select the application type and update the application name and say it okay. I think it's pretty straightforward steps. So this is about the database step, how we can create an Essbase database. Okay. So now coming to the planning application. So how we can build a IPM planning application. So before going to build a planning application, we have to create a data source. For each Hyperion planning application, we required one schema in the backend to store that application related data into the schema. It is not like Essbase. Essbase can hold that related Essbase application using the database, but this planning application got built generally from the perspective of planning application should have a separate schema for it, and its data is going to store in the backend Essbase engine. Okay. When you create Essbase application, Essbase application metadata and data both are storing into a database folder where you can see it. Okay. So Essbase application metadata and data both are storing into a Essbase database folder called budget, whatever we have created. But coming to the planning metadata will store in planning schema. We call it now as a planning data source. Okay. But planning data will store in Essbase database. Okay. So what is the meaning of it? If you create your planning application, it's going to store in the same path called Arbor path, but the planning data will store in the Essbase engine. Okay. Because Essbase is the backend database for all planning applications. For all planning applications. Okay, so this is what you need to understand. Okay. Right. So to create the data source or to create the planning source, schema for each application we have to create it. Okay. So I'm going to log into the database. Just log into this. Okay. I'm going to create a separate schema using create user LIT PLN 04. Okay. Identified by password is password 1. So you have to give the password while creating the schema. Okay. I'm going to create this for the planning application source. So 04 is stands for the April month. Just right click on it, copy it and run this query. So it got created. LIT PLN04 got created in the backend schema. And now I'm going to grant it as a what is that username? LIT PLN04. Grant succeeded. Do you see? It's done. So now if I go and check whether this DB got created. If I come down, you see LIT PLN04 got created. Here, now how we can access the planning application? Through workspace, right? Now to create the planning application, go to the navigate, administer, planning administration, administer, planning administration. So what are the types of applications we create? We are going to create only classical type of applications. So what we are going to create in our training, all the applications are classical applications. So if you go to this planning administration, you see manage data source, upgrade wizard, and manage application. So to create the manage application, we should have to create first the data source. So now just click on this green button, LIT plan 04. Okay. And the same I'm going to create with the same name. Oracle is the schema name for me. And the system name is LIT EPM. 1521 is the port. By default, Oracle database port is 1521. Okay. And the service name or SID is ORCL. Just try to understand, guys, so what are all the details, and you can research on it later. Okay. So the schema name is the same schema. Password is password 1. So you have to be very careful whether I'm using the right or not. Okay. These are the details. What I'm trying to test is from this workspace, I'm trying to test whether the schema is available in this server. So it is available already. Of course, we have seen, but still I'm checking. Okay. To create the data source. Say validate. See, the database connection was successful. You should have this. Okay. So we have to have one schema for each application, planning application. Now check the SBase server. Why we have the SBase server here? Because your planning data is going to sit into this planning SBase backend server. Okay. Say validate. Good. Both are fine and save it. So this is how you're going to create your data source. So for SBase, you don't need to create a separate schema, because it holds that SBase metadata and data. But for planning, you have to create one data source of the schema for each planning application. Okay, data source is created. Now go to the planning application. So if you click on this actions create or this plus symbol, it's going to ask the first thing, data source. I have already created this. It comes automatically. So if you have multiple data sources, you'll just have to select from the drop-down bar. Okay. So now type with us LIT LN04, the same, copy and paste in the description. This is for planning and budgeting. You can mention like this. And you have the application type are two things, general and sample. Sample is nothing but you no need to mention all the information like what is the financial period, how many years you want, what is the period, how many number of years you want to. So all this information you don't need to give because the system itself create a simple application, sample application called Vision. Okay, if you select general, you have to manually update all this calendar, currency, plan types, everything. Okay, so either it is a sample application or either it is a general application, you should have one data source. Okay, so try to understand. And here, under which group you want to create this. So this is just for a naming convention, like we are grouping all the related planning application under the planning group. So what is this meaning? If you go to the administration and shared services console, okay, you see application groups. So if you expand, only SBase related applications will be available here. Okay, if you expand this FDME related applications will be there here. Foundation components, related application. And if you expand planning related applications would be here. Okay. And if you create any application group called HFM, that HFM group you can create like this new application group. Say it, okay, like HFM. Okay. The HFM application group. Say finish. That's it. Okay. You can see HFM here now. So when I create a HFM application, I can move that application to the HFM group to make sure whether, if I mention all HFM planning in one group, I may confuse. That is the reason. Okay, so I hope you understand here. So now I selected the planning group, and to perform any calculations, the default component or module which we have here is calculation manager. Okay, now say next. And generally, every year we do the budgeting and forecasting. So I'm using the base period as 12 months. Okay. My fiscal start year, I started my business in 2015. And number of years I want to maintain. The minimum number of years is we provide 10. So it means that my start year is 2015 and my end year is 2024. Okay. And fiscal year first month. So what is your financial period? Either it is April or either it is January. So if you are working in India for your company, you will use April. Okay. And coming to this weekly distribution. So you may heard about the names called month-end closing, quarter-end closing, like this. So the business users will try to input and sort it out, or what is the profit on month-end, loss or something like that related to the reports they are going to work, and they have to finish that work. So on quarterly basis, you have an option here in the planning application. Do you need the same time on every 3 months in the quarter, or do you want, in a month we have 4 weeks, in the second month 4 weeks, and the third month we get 5 weeks. Okay, so generally, do you want to have more time in the third month, or do you want to have more time in second month, or do you want to have more weeks on the first month? So it's up to you what is the frequency that you want to have it. Okay, so generally we go with event distribution or else 4-4-5 distribution. Okay, so now coming to the all years, this is a period dimension like Jan to December. So for that period dimension, if you want to have all years as a parent member, Okay, you can use this. Otherwise, you can, leave this. It's up to you. Okay, it's not mandatory. So if you place this, you can read that when the all years parent is added, all fiscal years become children of this parent member. If a no year member exists, it becomes as a sibling of the all years parent. Okay. So workforce and capex are not supported currently if all year option is selected. So workforce and capex is different modules. So we are not going to enable at this moment. So you can enable this all years at this moment. Say next now, and you want to now support multi-currency, you can say yes. And what is your currency? I mentioned January, so I'm going to use USD currency itself. And I want to use no. I don't want to create the multi-currency. And these are the by default cubes. Now I'm going to ask you one more question. How many cubes or plan types will be created or will be available when you create a planning application? So 3 BSO cubes, 1 ASO cube, and 1 workforce and capex. Okay, so if you go back, if I select all here, you see workforce and capex, you can enable these modules. Okay, so how many cubes are there? These are the BSO cubes and this is the ASO cube. So that application creation in Essbase is very simple, but application creation in planning, it has these steps. Okay, so you can disable, or enable whatever you want. Like if you want to have only one cube called budget, you can use that. Otherwise, if you want to have one more cube with the name of forecast, you can enable that. Okay, so 2 cubes I'm going to enable right now, and I don't want any ASO cube at this moment. Say next. It was selected. And this is the summary. So we have 3 plan types: budget, forecast, plan 3. ASO not selected because I didn't enable it. Workforce planning, capex planning, both I didn't select. The calculation manager is the calculation module that I'm going to use it. And the year is 2015 and number of years I want to maintain this application is 10. So it means like till 24 I'll be having this application. So now if you say create, your application is going to create in the backend also. So your planning application also is available in the Arbor path itself. You see, just got created now. Planning 04 application is available and the cubes also get created now. Please wait for that. Okay, I hope you understand now both how we can create Essbase and planning application. So the methods or the process for application in planning is something different that you need to practice. Okay, my 3 cubes got created. This you have to enable it. 3 BSO cubes are available. 1 ASO cube is available along with workforce and capex module. Okay, and one more, application got created. One more task for you. I want you to understand what is the purpose of each file in the planning application too. Everybody. Okay. So if you cover for Essbase, it applies to the Essbase or planning also. So both are same. There is no difference in the queue. But I want you to understand what is the purpose of each file. Okay. So that's it for today. I would like to give you on Essbase and planning, and tomorrow we'll talk about the HFM and FDN. Okay. See here creating of data source. You can see all the steps. Okay. Creating planning application is done. Right. So this HFM we are going to talk about in the tomorrow session. All right. Any questions?
Sir, this PDF you will provide steps.
Sorry.
This PPT will provide, or the
I'm
steps what
going to
is
give you the video itself, not the presentation. The presentation, I need to make some changes on it to make you understand. It will take time. Just watch the video this moment. Okay. So I'll give it to you. And this Saturday, guys, we are going to have one real-time session because we started practical sessions from this week. We'll have a lot of work from today. I want you to make sure, don't think that, we'll be there and for each and every question. So you have to search, troubleshoot in the Google before going to ask us the questions. Okay. So from today onwards, it would be like whatever we discussed, you have to watch at least 2 times that video, and our team will create the users for you, user login for you, and you have to make sure that clients got installed on your machine and you are able to access the application, and you're going to practice it as per the video. Okay. So from today, it will be very practical session. So you have a lot of work. All right. And document it as discussed and start working on it. So I'm not seeing all the people are sharing with me the status. So if at all it is not happening from today, so I'm not going to allow you in the meeting. Okay. So please make sure have your own time on this and practice it. Any questions?
After creating only giving the credential, then only we can create, sir. We can practice. Just documentation we have to prepare and watch the
Your
video.
logins
Right
will
now.
be created in next 1 hour. Your logins. Okay.
Okay.
So, I'll ask my person to create it, and you can validate the workspace and ES console meanwhile and install it on your machine. So start practicing it. So once this video got saved, we are going to put in the drive and you can watch it at this moment till we created your user logins. Okay. Yeah. Fine then. Thank you. Thanks for your time.